Hello, everybody, and we are back with Our Life Beginnings and Always. I'm gonna finish up the moment that I did last time, which is, let's see, we're on step 3, so that would be Tang, right? Yeah, yeah, right here. That's where. Okay. Did I leave it here? Let's see. 25th, 20s, 26. Okay, yeah, it's right there. Okay. So we're on part 2 to finish off where I left off at because Camtasia cut off on me last time, so I had to re-download it. I had to take it off the old one, re-download it. Hopefully it'll work now. I don't have any more problems with it. Okay. Miranda laughed a little and Terry slung an arm over Miranda's shoulder with a big grin. Seeing their reactions, he made a point to search for yours too. Okay. You hope Cove would get there soon. Come on, Cove. Stop being a little bee. Just get your butt over here. Cove stepped up to the car, his expression now inscrutable. Hello, says Baxter. Hi, Cove. Hi, says Cove. Alrighty, plan made. Let's hop in, says Terry. You excitedly opened the passenger side door and buckled yourself in. The car was pristine and you were right near the new car scented air freshener. Baxter had the air conditioner on cold but low, so it was presently cool inside. A nice relief from the summer sun you had been baking in all day. Your friends clamored in back. It definitely seemed the slightest bit squashed back there.
Does that sound alright?
Welcome to my vehicle. I hope everyone is comfortable, and if someone could point me in the right direction, we can be on our way, says Baxter. Alright, go. You begin to explain where you had come from. It was pretty easy to direct him straight down the road and one turn into a parking lot. Baxter nodded from up in the driver's seat and pulled back into the road. Luckily, the street was still dead empty. It took no time at all for Baxter to park right next to Cove's car. There wasn't enough time for a proper conversation to start. The occupants didn't seem to mind. There were smiles all around when Baxter parked next to Cove's car. Wahoo, says Terry. Miranda climbed quietly as Terry cheered. Cove chuckled nervously. Let's see. You notice Baxter in a friendly way. He leaned over the divider and gave Baxter a light-hearted push on the shoulder. He hadn't been expecting it, but quietly laughed and smiled at you. The celebration seemed to amuse him. "We've arrived." "That was easy," says Baxter. Terry flung open her door and climbed out.
"Thanks."
"Thanks," says Terry. Skip it.
"Thanks."
Okay. Everyone else exited the car as well. The group thanked Baxter with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Baxter himself got out too. Everyone congratulated again in front of Baxter's and Cove's cars. Cove looked at the back of his and frowned. He finally discovered the Warshmi you put on it. "I wonder who did that," says Cove. You smirked along with Miranda, who realized you'd been caught.
"Ooh."
"It's a mystery," says Miranda. "Right," says Cove. Terry bounced over to Baxter and offered her hand for a handshake. He accepted it easily with a charming grin. "You're a pal," says Terry. "You're too kind. It was no trouble whatsoever," says Baxter. "I'll be keeping this card all summer. If it suits you, you're welcome to take a number and give me a ring whenever you're in need of another ride. And that goes for everyone here," says Baxter. "I have a car," says Cove. Terry busted into laughter and Miranda fidgeted. You did not know what to do with that. Baxter really went fast, didn't he? He noticed her discomfort and smiled with a soft tilt of the head. "I'd be happy to help again, but that's the only reason I offered. If you don't need it, you can pass on it," says Baxter. "Can I have your number?" I asked. He beamed wildly at your response.
"Absolutely,"
says Baxter. Baxter pulled out a pen he had with him for some reason and jotted his number down. He passed the little paper to you and you accepted. When her giggles subsided, Terry put a hand to her chin with brows furrowed. what that option be available right now? You could valet us somewhere cool, says Terry.
What?
Says Cove. Cove was taken aback. He put a hand on the hood of his car. Weren't we going back to the neighborhood? Wasn't Baxter going back to the neighborhood too? Why would we go somewhere else? Asked Cove. Because we can, says Terry. Miranda squirmed nervously and then committed to piping up.
Maybe?
We could go to the park near my place. It's really a nice place to hang out, says Miranda. You and Cole shared a look. The big park was pretty nice. Let's do it, says Terry. Baxter tapped the side of his face in thought.
It's doable.
That sounds doable, says Baxter. He glanced at Cove and then switched focus to you.
Well,
We have 2 cars. If some people want to go to the park, I could still take others home. But if everyone's going, it wouldn't make sense for me not to, says Cove. You wanted to continue the hangout session at the park. You weren't ready to tag out yet. You came to a decision and turned to Cove. Let's go to the parks, I exclaimed. Alright, park time it is, says Cove. He smiled a little. Terry cheered and Miranda nodded happily. You felt like you made a good decision. Here, don't be a party pooper, Cove. Come on.
Yeah!
To the car, again, says Terry. Yeah, whatever car that might be, I exclaimed. You gestured at Cove and then to Baxter, seeing who would volunteer. Cove sighed and ran a hand through his hair. He tapped on his car's hood nervously.
I guess.
We could go in Baxter's, I guess. It'll be less of a pain than bringing both. We're all going to the same place, says Cove. Are you okay with that, Baxter? Asked Miranda. Certainly. I might admit what I said. Then when you need a lift, I can give it, says Baxter. Neither you nor Terry brought up any objections, and so the gang climbed back into Baxter's nice ride. Baxter offered to turn on some music. After all, it would be a little bit of a drive to the park. Let's see. Can we see what's on the radio? No, it's not it. We can, says Baxter. Baxter pressed a button on the dash and popped up. Music started blaring. He carefully turned the volume dial down so that it was low enough to talk over. Gotta get some water. He reached over to switch the station, but when he noted Terry was already rocking out, he dropped his hand and placed it back on the steering wheel. I love this song, says Terry.
Me too.
Says Miranda. He smiled at the girls and then started checking his mirrors. With the music taken care of, he put the car into drive and started driving to the park. The parking lot was practically empty, but you noticed that he was careful anyways. That's mine. Here's his up there. Sorry about that. It took a while to arrive. By the time you got there, the sky was golden with orange streaks of sunset. Everyone got out of the car and started to stroll along one of the paths. You walked to the basketball court and some picnic tables, taking in the sights. Miranda seemed amazingly content, the location helping her relax in the company. She led the way, sometimes stopping here or there to point something out. Baxter turned to her and nodded along.
Not bad.
I've never been here, but I definitely see the appeal, says Baxter. Man, this is Randy's stomping ground. She's been coming here forever, says Terry. Seriously, Miranda, have you ever had a birthday party that wasn't here? Asked Terry. You've missed out, Baxter, because every year she has a blowout party at the park. Imagine balloons everywhere. Miranda looked down, suddenly shy again with the attention on her. She let out an awkward laugh. Yep, every year, says Miranda. Actually, my birthday is where I first started to get to know Cove and Chippy, says Miranda. She smiled and then pointed to a wide, flat spot on the grass. Remember the bounce house, says Miranda. I remember, says Cove. He chuckled and you could practically see those old memories on his face. It was a party for all ages. You were great, says Cove. I miss parties like that. Everyone is too cool for bounce houses. The group followed Miranda along one of the picnic tables. She took a seat and Terry sat in beside her. We spent the evening chatting amongst each other. Everyone got to know Baxter a little better, although you could tell Cove and him still hadn't fully clicked. Well, there was that moment it seemed like he was being flirtatious to us both, so probably just feels awkward around him, that's all. At one point, Miranda found an abandoned soccer ball and started tossing it around. To me, says Terry. Miranda threw the ball to her. Terry caught it with a smile. Think fast, says Terry. She chucked it at Baxter, who only had enough time to squeak. It bounced off his chest and he stared at it, dazed. He blinked as he needed time to process what exactly had happened, but then grinned dangerously. He rushed after the ball, and rather than throwing it back, he surprised Terry and everyone else by lobbing the ball high into the air. You bent your neck back to watch its ascent and inevitable decline. Baxter hooked it with his foot and launched it up again. There were oohs and ahs from Terry and Miranda. Baxter gave them a very proper bow. When it finally fell to the ground, for real, Cove was one who picked it up. He was impressed and he wanted in. With that, everyone was drawn into the game. It was unspoken that whoever did the fanciest trick won. Most of the game was not practically practice with throwing a ball. Not many of the tricks were actually good. However, there was a lot of laughter, and you got to see Miranda pull off a round off where she threw the ball with her feet, so that was cool. Excuse me. The sunset eventually darkened into night, and the street lights turned on. Your group's chosen picnic table lay in a bubble of light. The occasional bug cast a shadow as they flew by. It's a little strange being here so late on a normal night. Usually that only happens if there was a party or an important game or a fireworks show. Fireworks, says Terry. Her yell startled Baxter, who was throwing the ball nonchalantly from hand to hand. He missed catching it, and it sailed sadly back to the ground. He looked at Terry for her loud outburst. I just remembered. There's going to be a fireworks show tonight. It's in the city. At everyone's questioning looks, she huffed and tried to explain further. Excuse me. It's some celebration for opening of something. I don't remember what. I don't think we could get into the actual event anyways.
Oh, yeah!
But we should still be able to see the show if we get close. You can't keep explosions in the sky away from the public, says Terry. Cove raised an eyebrow and drummed his fingers on the table below him. You want to change locations again? Wasn't the last 2 times enough, says Cove. Terry rolled. Terry rolled her eyes and then shook her head. To her, it was obvious. Don't be a wet blanket, Cove. What about you, Chippy, Randy, Baxter? Don't you want to see fireworks? Asked Terry. It's fireworks, we gotta go. I guess they are fireworks. Alright, whatever. What's one more scene change, says Cove. Yush. I knew this was a good idea, says Terry. In turn, the 4 sets of eyes looked to Baxter as the driver. His answer broke the plan. He chuckled softly. In for a penny, in for a pound. I'll go, says Baxter.
Honestly.
Surely there's nothing better than to occupy my time tonight. We better hurry, or we might miss it, says Baxter. Cove rolled his eyes but laughed. Everyone headed back to the car yet again. Terry brought out her phone to navigate the city, and Baxter stepped on the gas. You were on your way. Baxter drove past buildings aglow in warm yellow light that cut through the wet navy black light. One office building had bright LED lights that circled through a whole rainbow of hues. it was difficult to get through all the traffic on the road, let alone find parking this late at night. Luckily, Miranda had eagle eyes when it came to scoping out a spot. She pointed to a sedan pulling out, and Baxter parked within seconds. Not wanting to miss the show, you all raced down to the waterfront walkway to find a place with a good view. What about here, says Miranda. Cove peered across the rails into the distance, and you shot her a thumbs up. It was relatively quiet, isolated, and you could see skyscrapers. That was a good sign, based on where Terry thought the event was. Yes, this should work just fine, says Terry. She stopped and tried to catch her breath. Her hands on her knees. Miranda leaned against the wall between establishments as she recovered. Cove took up a moment to breathe as well, stretching his spine back. He looked up at the sky in wonder and let out a relieved sigh. Think we've missed anything? Says Cove.
No way.
Not a chance. Nothing's happening, and we can't be so late that we missed everything, says Terry. Maybe it'll start soon, says Miranda. You felt excited. The spontaneity of the whole thing, combined with the amusement of fireworks, was a recipe for you to be bursting with anticipation. It couldn't start soon enough. Terry led Miranda to sit down on the oval slabs along the path. Miranda took a seat and began tapping her knees together as she waited. Terry, meanwhile, crouched more than sat. Baxter smiled politely and looked from you to Cove. He seemed to be waiting for one of you to speak first rather than wanting to directly start a conversation. Something seemed to strike Cove as he tried unsuccessfully to hide a smile. Most of us are in swimsuits, says Cove. Wearing beachwear in the middle of the city in the dark while waiting for a fireworks show was clearly the joke of the day for him. Cove snorted once and then looked back up at the sky. But I'm not sure if this tops the one night you went around town with me and Mom dressed in my pajamas, says Cove. He laughed, too, when he remembered the incident. It had been quite the escapade. That sounds like a story I'd be interested in hearing, says Baxter. Cove looked at him and then you, shaking his head slightly. What kind of is the story? That kind of is the story. There's not a lot else to say, says Grove. You weren't entirely sure about that. Cole wasn't ready to start reminiscing with Baxter.
So,
Well, I wish I had gotten the memo of tonight's dress code. I could have suited myself to fit, says Baxter. He tugged on his shirt sleeve with a faint grin, going for humor. He definitely was overdressed when you compared him to the rest of you. It seemed it succeeded in making Cove smile. Sorry, says Cove. A flash lit up the sky with a brilliant green. Your eyes flew off the building in the distance and slightly watched with bated breath. You heard a second boom and a red firework lit up the night. Woohoo! The show's starting, says Terry. It's so pretty. They came running over to get closer, positively beaming Terry. Terry pressed herself into the waterfront fence, getting as close as physically possible without just going swimming again. More fireworks went off, shooting out hundreds of tiny, sparkling lights. The colors stood out starkly against the dark of the night. The biggest ones washed your surrounding with their hue, turning your world blue, then red, and then golden.
Welcome.
Did I deliver or did I deliver, says Terry. Miranda's eyes glittered and she lightly bumped Terry with her hip. Good job, says Miranda. Terry stumbled at the friendly nudge, but was pleased with the compliment. She grinned back. Miranda lightly swung her hips the opposite way to give you a bump as well. It was friendly and soft.
Woo!
We did it, says Miranda. You gave her a little push in turn with a laugh. You were pleased. Okay, wait a minute. I gotta pick something here. Okay, yeah. You were pleased that you hadn't missed any of the show at all. Despite how unorthodox the impromptu fireworks had been, you were ecstatic. It worked out. Luckily, you arrived in time, and it was shaping up to be practically colorful fireworks. A practically colorful fireworks show. Wow. The rest of the group huddled around the railing to take in the show as closely as possible. Miranda stood close by Terry's hands gripped the top. Cove laid his arms across it while leaning forward, and Baxter rested his elbows on the rail, putting his back towards the fireworks. He seemed to have more fun watching the others than the actual show. Oh, says Miranda. She pointed out a golden firework and beamed. Ah, that's so cool, says Terry. Terry held up a hand for a high five, and Miranda obliged her. Terry whooped and shot you a smile. What color do you think the next one will be, says Baxter. Without giving Baxter a glance, Cove answered immediately. Green, says Cove. It was orange. Baxter chuckled, but wasn't interested in calling Cove out for being wrong. Is that your favorite color? Green? Asked Baxter.
That's...
It's one of them, says Cove. I think that's nice. It matches you, says Baxter. And is yours black, says Cove? That's one of them, says Baxter. Cove smirked at just a little and left the conversation there. He stood next to Cove. Cove looked away from the fireworks and grinned at you. He was glad to be spending time with you and tilted his head at a spectacular multicolored firework above. I think that's been my favorite so far, says Cove. He shot you another look and nodded, wanting you to move up closer in front of him. You could see the night's lights reflected on the water. You took a moment to watch him and the fireworks reflected in his eyes. Cove grinned like a kid. You cuddled against Cove's chest. You pressed yourself against his chest and snuggled into him. He readjusted his position and then wrapped his arms around you, holding you close. He rested his chin on top of your head, comfortably. You let yourself relax against him and continue to watch the fireworks above. Cove's gaze drifted from the show of dazzling lights and straight at you, and he sighed dreamily. You didn't know when you'd last seen him so bashful. So blissful. The spectacle continued to up the ante by bringing more fireworks out at the time. Oh, my nose. Ugh. The colors danced across the sky and reflected over the water. You reached out a hand and watched as it was tinted green while a big boom sounded. Fireworks were a normal summer tradition, but this was admittedly an unconventional approach. Showing up in the city last minute to watch a display from a technically private event that made this feel special in a way that just planning to go to a public fireworks show would never would. Tara's idea may not have left you with a lot of time to prepare, but it sure led to a unique situation. It was clear this was an unforgettable night. As the final sounded, blazing the sky with unbelievable beauty, you remembered thinking that there might be a night exactly like this like this one again. Not for the rest of your life. You planned to hold on to the feelings you had in that moment for as long as you could. And that's the end of it. Our next moment will be errands for step 3. So again, thank you for watching on my YouTube channel. Let's see here. It's already been saved for the next moment, so I don't have to save it. So don't forget to click that like button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Also, don't forget, if you can, go to my Patreon account. I will have that link in the bottom where you can go to find that. I really would appreciate it if you can go there and contribute to my Patreon, so that that money can go to a worthy charity. Okay, really appreciate that. Like I said, all the money that goes in there, I don't see a penny of it. It goes directly to charity. So yeah. See you guys later, and thanks again.